Penguin Random House Audio presents Pain Hustlers, Crime and Punishment at an Opioid Startup. Originally published as The Hard Sell by Evan Hughes. Read for you by Mike Chamberlain. For Adele and Isabel. Prologue. Gavin Auerbach had a long commute, but often he arrived at work before dawn. After an hour and a half's drive, his headlights would swing into the parking lot, illuminating a one-story beige brick building that resembled a shopping plaza divided into storefronts. It was Saginaw, Michigan. In the winters, it was frigid. Auerbach would get out of his Chevrolet HHR, and when he was the first one there, he would unlock the door. He worked in the unit farthest to the right, where his name was stenciled in white letters on the glass door. Auerbach was too busy to pay much attention to his appearance. His graying hair sprouted in every direction, and he was often unshaven. At the office, he wore casual clothes, a sweatshirt and jeans, perhaps. He was disheveled enough that people wondered if he had slept in his outfit. His lab coat looked as if it could use a wash. He would shrug it on over his street clothes after he arrived at the office. Then the people would come, in a constant flow. Auerbach was a doctor. He was educated at Michigan State, the University of Arizona, and Wayne State University in Detroit. In 1989, he completed the specialized training to become a neurologist, treating conditions of the nervous system. In the early years, his practice evolved from focusing on disorders such as stroke and multiple sclerosis into managing pain in a broader set of patients. People came to him suffering from migraines, neck pain, back pain. By 2012, Auerbach's clinic was a major medical destination in the area, about 90 miles northwest of Detroit, not far from Flint. Auerbach had around 5,000 active patients, pouring into the small office suite at a rate of perhaps 50 a day. Some of them drove for hours to see him, from as far away as Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The wait was long once they got there. Auerbach had opened his clinic in the area in order to cater to an underserved population. The city core of Saginaw is predominantly black, but Auerbach's clinic was located on the outskirts, where the city gives way quickly to farmland with a majority white, blue-collar population. In the wake of the global financial collapse, jobs were in short supply. With the near collapse of the big three car makers, a top local employer, an auto parts manufacturer, had become a shell of its former self, shedding workers and entering bankruptcy before being purchased by Chinese interests. A lot of Auerbach's patients wore work jackets or camouflage. Many were retired or on disability. More than half were on Medicaid or Medicare. Walkers, braces, and wheelchairs were a common sight at the clinic. To patients, Dr. Auerbach appeared to be a man of great decency, ministering one at a time to their deeply personal needs, with the unpretentious air of a social worker. He was a small man and never intimidating or confrontational. He wasn't one of those doctors who let you know that he had power over you. He cared for his patients, many of them said. He took their pain seriously. By this time, the medical community was grappling with the fact that the prolonged boom in opioid prescribing that had begun in the late 1990s had helped to create a nationwide health crisis. Now, heightened security and changing medical opinion were altering the landscape of pain management. Many physicians were beginning to turn away from prescribing opioids over the long term or at high doses. Instead, doctors were referring patients struggling with chronic pain to specialists such as Auerbach. This was not simply a matter of deferring to the experts. It was also a way of dumping a difficult problem on someone else. Treating pain is demanding and sensitive, and liability comes with the territory. Auerbach became, for many patients, a port of last resort, a man who would give them the potent medications they depended on when other doctors would not. In January 2013, a regular patient made the trip to the clinic in Saginaw. He told Dr. Auerbach that his back pain was manageable, ranging from a 3 to a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. He had been riding motorcycles lately, he added, making conversation. The patient said the Vicodin that Auerbach had put him on seemed okay, but he asked for a prescription of the painkiller OxyContin. Auerbach told him that he ought to try a new medication instead, and showed it to him. The doctor held in his hand a small plastic bottle with a spout that extended from the top like a periscope. The medication was a liquid spray, and Auerbach explained that you shoot it under your tongue. The drug had only just been approved the previous year. It was called Subsys. It is an opioid many times more powerful than OxyContin. What Auerbach didn't know was that the patient at this appointment was an undercover agent. The whole encounter was covertly recorded on video. At least 3 agents had been seeing Auerbach for many months, posing as patients and concocting fake medical complaints. At the outset of their investigation, the authorities were looking into the doctor's prolific billing for certain diagnostic tests, which measure electrical activity in nerves and muscles. Their suspicions turned out to be well-founded. Over and over in their undercover visits, Auerbach used needles and probes that may have looked right to patients, but the exams were bogus, a brief pantomime performed for show. Sometimes the needles and probes weren't even connected to a machine. Agents at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General, or HHS-OIG, see a lot of insurance fraud like this. It's a major drain on federal programs. Some doctors look at the checks that come back from Medicare or Medicaid when they invoice for testing, and they get ideas. Who would know if the tests they administered were even real? They might rationalize their cheating with the thought that the patients aren't getting hurt. But prescribing Subsys for moderate back pain, that was something different. Auerbach's permissiveness with opioids had already raised flags, but the HHS-OIG special agent on the case, Mark Hegemeyer, straightened up and took notice when Subsys appeared unprompted in that undercover visit. That was where we first started really drilling into it, the amount he was prescribing, he recalled. Because once you did the research on that drug, it was like, whoa, this is serious stuff. The liquid in the Subsys spray bottle that Auerbach held in his hand was fentanyl. For decades after it was first synthesized in 1960, fentanyl had been approved only for patients under medical supervision in hospital settings. Subsys doses are measured in micrograms, 1/1,000,000th of a gram, because fentanyl is up to 100 times as powerful as morphine and roughly 50 times as potent as heroin. At the time of the investigation, illicitly manufactured fentanyl, often pressed into counterfeit pills or spiked into heroin, was starting to become the leading culprit in the opioid crisis, the deadliest drug epidemic in American history. By 2017, fentanyl and its analogs would be implicated in more than half of all opioid fatalities. Subsys had been approved by the Food and Drug Administration solely to treat a relatively small group of people in dire circumstances. Cancer patients who are already taking an around-the-clock regimen of opioids, but still suffering from so-called breakthrough cancer pain. The term refers to spikes of pain that pierce through the protection of a longer-acting painkiller, such as OxyContin. Drugs in Subsys's class are valuable for this use because they're fast. They can combat pain so severe that the patient might otherwise go to the emergency room. They can give comfort to a person near the end of life. The narrow profile of this powerful drug was not stopping Dr. Auerbach from handing out an extraordinary number of Subsys prescriptions. Hegemeyer and a special agent at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Travis Lloyd, set out together to interview some of Auerbach's Subsys patients. They were disturbed by what they found. They visited a young...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?